Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Monday Lunch with Doc Funny, episode 7. Nope, I'm sorry, episode 6. This is episode 6. And I'm here with Dr. Ann James. So let me tell you a little bit about Ann James before we get started. She is wow, I wish she were one of my leaders when I was on active duty. She started as enlisted and she worked her way up to the commissioned ranks. And that's not an easy thing to do. That requires you to get your bachelor's degree while you're in service. And that's really hard. So she did that. She was also an ROTC instructor, and now she is a certified financial planner. And that's what we need right now. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Ann James. Hi, Dr. Ann. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I am just fine. So
Okay.
what I wanted to let pretty much the big question is COVID kicked my financial butt. How do I recover?
Yeah, I definitely understand. Well, thank you for having me on today. I truly appreciate it. And for transparency purposes, I just want to say that I'm a certified financial counselor, not a planner. There's a difference.
Oh, I am
So,
so sorry.
no, that's okay. I mean, people get it mixed up all the time, but I don't want people to hear this and be like, "She ain't no planner," that type stuff. So, the main
Okay.
difference is that I don't offer any type of or I should say, sell financial services like investment, mutual funds, life insurance, stocks. I don't do any of that type stuff where a planner does. So I just wanted
Okay.
to,
That's a good difference. Thanks for
yeah,
letting us know. That's because you wouldn't know unless you wouldn't know unless you asked. So,
exactly, exactly.
yes. So
Yeah.
as a financial counselor, help us through this quagmire that
Yeah,
some of us
man.
are.
Yeah, it definitely came out of nowhere, and unfortunately, people found themselves, ill prepared. You know what I mean? We never knew or thought in our lifetime that we would go through a pandemic such as this. But the first thing I would say is that you're not alone. So don't be sitting there thinking that, oh, woe is me. I'm so jacked up. My finances are crap. Stuff like that. You're not in the situation by yourself. So the biggest thing that I would say is to recognize that, and kudos for you and to others that realize that and want to turn things around, right? You can't change what has happened. You can only change what's going forward. And that's why I like to tell people as I work with them, let's focus on the future. Let's look out the windshield and not the rear view mirror, right? Because we can't change what's back there. We can only change what's in front of us, and just really treat it as a lesson learned. It caught everybody off guard, whether you had minimum savings in your account, that type thing. So just to really prepare yourself, I think a lot of habits that people not may have in place now is, for example, because of the pandemic, you may not be eating out as much. Right. So you're hopefully saving money there. But on the flip side, you're eating home, so your grocery bill may have went up. So it just really depends on where you land to capture those savings that you may not, be paying particular attention to. Another saving that I like to point out that some people may not, once again, be paying attention to, you're not driving as much, right? A lot of us are at
Yeah.
home, our cars are in the garage. So when this first kicked off, I told one of my clients, have you called your insurance company yet and tell them you're not
Oh,
driving? So
wow.
a lot of insurance companies since then have reimbursed some of the premiums. But when this first started, that was not the case. And she made the phone call and saved over $250 a month. Just
Wow.
yeah, just from her car being parked, because now she's not going anywhere, that type stuff. So the biggest thing when you have savings like that, or what I like to say unexpected or unplanned, to make sure that they don't further away, you want to have a plan for any type of unanticipated money, I should say, that comes your way, whether that's putting that money towards debt, whether that's saving it in a savings account and so forth. So in this time of uncertainty where individuals aren't sure when they're going to go back to work, or if they've lost their job, or if they're relying on unemployment, I would say save as much money as you can instead of possibly throwing it towards debt. And a lot of people might be like, what? You don't want us to pay off debt? But like I said, when you're in a time such as this where you don't know when you might lose your job, or your hours may be drastically cut, or you might have a
Yeah.
family member get sick, right? You want to go in what's known as storm cloud mode, like protecting yourself until the sun comes out again and things are, back to a new normal, I should say. So that's why I think that everybody should start at least.
Storm cloud mode. Okay, you brought it up. So what exactly is storm cloud mode?
Yeah, storm cloud mode is just, as the name sounds, like if you're preparing for a storm to happen, like the unexpected. You see it on the horizon. And what I like to say, okay, we didn't expect this pandemic, but it's not this next one. It's not a matter of if, okay, it's a matter of when. So are you going to take the lessons learned that from your experience with this pandemic and prepare
Yep.
or go into a survival mode? What most people may hear, survival mode, storm cloud, go into a mode to be like, okay, I need to insulate myself. I need to protect myself on the horizon. So if something was to happen again, it wouldn't catch me off guard. I would be prepared for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's that's one of the things that, I had a comment on my Facebook tweet feed yesterday, and I'm like, "Hey, how's everybody's 2021 going?" And it's like, "It's better than 2020." I'm like, "Yeah, 2020 taught us a lot about ourselves. It should have." And financially speaking, what is the first thing that someone should do when faced with a job loss, with anything that will drastically cut your use of money? I say that's when you need to make sure of your budget, but you're the counselor, so what do you say?
No, you're absolutely right, but I would say to take inventory of what, the most important things that you have to cover, right? So one, if you have a mortgage, your mortgage or your rent, right? Or your four walls, right? You don't want that threatened. You lost your job, you don't want to lose your home, or a
Mm-mm.
roof over your head. So that I would definitely say start there. The next place, okay, your utilities, your lights, your water. Now, some things might be niceties to have, the extras on cable, that type of stuff. Those might be nice to have, but you want to have water, food, shelter, all of those things. Transportation, you're still going to need a reliable source of transportation. No, you may not need that new car that you just purchased, but okay, now you have it. So all of those are the essential things that you want to make sure that if you're facing job loss or reduction in your hours, that you are able to still cover. And with that, I want to say, don't be so prideful that you don't want to ask for help.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some people are just so, "Oh, I ain't gonna apply for unemployment, this and this and that." Why not? You paid into it, you earned it, right? So yeah, you get what's yours, and not okay. Some people take advantage of situations, granted, but in situations like that, don't be so prideful that you don't ask for help, whether it's through unemployment, reaching out to your family. A lot of younger generations had to move back home, right? Like college kids and stuff like that, they had to move back home. So you have to do whatever you can do until, as I was saying before, this storm passes. And yes, as you mentioned, you want to make sure that how you can do that is by having a budget in place, as you mentioned. And, there's all different types of um, templates out there, apps out there. A budget is nothing more than your money coming in versus how much is going out, and where you're standing. Are you spending too much, or do you have some money left over? But whatever you do, Get it out of your head and put it on paper in front of you. That's the biggest thing I like to get when I think about a budget, or what I refer to as a money battle plan.
I like that. I'm gonna write that down. Money battle.
Yeah. 'Cause going, I feel like you're going to battle, right? Like all these things that
It
you have
does.
to, yeah, that you have to, you're responsible for. They're like little enemies. So you got to go to battle. Who's going to come out on top? So that's how I like to look at it. Because some people hear the word budget and they automatically think, oh, no, I got to deprive myself. I can't do this. I can't do that. It's like, that's not even it. You're just telling your money where to go. And if you want it to be Starbucks, if you want it to be Target, then so be it, but at least know where it's going. So you have to start somewhere.
Oh wow, that's like the scared straight talk. I really appreciate that. That was nice.
That's me. I give it to you straight. No chaser.
Yeah. Hey, and we don't like chasers anyway. So let me ask you this about women and money, because women and money is, when women get divorced, women are more likely to take a decrease in their income, have to lower their standard of living, and it's always most. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen to men, but it mostly happens to women. How do women avoid that?
Yeah, man. And it's so true because that happened to me personally. Years
I know
ago.
it happened to me personally.
Yeah, years ago when I was in the military, I
Yeah.
found myself married, and shortly after that, I was pregnant, and shortly after that, I was divorced. But I had all this debt, and now I found myself a single parent. And then years later, I'd say a few years later, my daughter was diagnosed with special needs. So if you can imagine, yeah, you're already going through a traumatic divorce. And like you said, the financial and your worth and stuff like that. Now you have someone that's totally dependent
Dependent.
on you, right? So all that spirit of independence that I had back in the day, went out the window. So it was at that time that I realized, like you said, I had to get my financial house in order because I didn't want my past mistakes to mess up my daughter's future. So it's just really about what's important to you, whether you have, that's just my example. My reason was my daughter. But say if you don't have children, okay, well, what is important to you? In your
Mhm.
life, what do you see your future like? What do you want it to be? And what actions can you take to make sure that you start working towards that? What's um, yeah, just what's important to you. Your assess your priorities. Part of that battle plan that I mentioned is an acronym, and the A part of it is assess your priorities. What's important to you? Okay, the divorce happened. Okay, do you need to freshen up on your skills? Do you need to go back to school? That type thing. You was working in the home. Now, this is the first time you're working outside of the home. Maybe your spouse handled the money. Now you're responsible for handling your own money, but you were never taught, or you never got involved. So you really have to, maybe a period of self-educating yourself for a period to pull yourself out of the trenches and to get over this divorce, so that, or whatever, relationship failure, whatever
Yeah,
have you,
whatever.
whatever it is, so that it doesn't define you going forward. As you mentioned, yeah, a lot of times we as women, we attach our self-worth, to our net worth or to someone else.
Mm.
And it can't be the case. You have to
It-
start with yourself before anything else. It doesn't matter the numbers, it doesn't matter budget or none of that. You truly have to start with, yourself and what you want out of life, and then just put an action and a plan in place to take you there.
yeah, it's enough where you say you where we have to say, hey, look, how do we do this? And usually a step by step plan.
Hmm.
And also part of it is like feeling just spiritually okay. But and once you're not in that place where you can even see that, it's really hard for you to focus on your finances the way
Yeah.
they should be. because you're operating from a place of fear.
Yes.
And I want to know how not to operate from a place of fear.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it was because I had a not just fear, like I had a scarcity mindset,
Mm.
right? Like I had to save everything, don't ask me for nothing, because it was just me. I don't have no husband. It was just me and my daughter. Don't ask me for nothing. So I had that scarcity mindset. So a couple of things that I did was, like I said, started reading, self-educating myself, reading different people's testimonials, and saw that, wow, if they can do it, then I can do it too. So I started believing in myself that I can turn my financial situation around, and it doesn't have to be, um, you know, instantaneous. I took little baby steps. I had over $180,000 in debt that I was able to pay off in 3 years.
Oh, oh my gosh, that's
Okay. Yeah. So
oh
you
wow.
can, yeah, yeah. So it's a matter of getting, believing in yourself, assessing your priorities, and just getting focused. I was so laser focused on my debt, that nothing else mattered. But once I started my faith walk, the second thing that helped me to get over that scarcity mindset, like you said, the spiritual part of it, once I started my faith walk, I had to realize that it wasn't about just the works that I was doing. I had to trust that God would provide for me, in a time of need. And once I realized that scarcity mindset, that fear, it started to melt away. So, but yeah, for anybody that wants, like you said, yeah, you want a step by step, plan, right? Like there's so many plans out there. Me personally, I follow Dave Ramsey's baby steps 1 through 7. But with that, I made it my own at the same time. And that's how I came up with my money battle plan. So the B stands for believing in yourself. The A is assess your priorities that we kind of already talked about. The T is for tracking your numbers, right? It's that
Um,
somewhat of that budget that we talked about, but it's so much more than that, in that you have to know your starting point, right? Your
mm,
numbers. And, the numbers that I'm talking about, it makes up another acronym called NICE. So that's your net worth,
uh,
your income,
okay, you're okay. Hold on. Net worth, income,
your credit,
credit,
and your expenses.
expenses.
Yeah. So those are just four numbers you want to start with, um, when you start tracking your numbers.
Okay.
Um, so that's the first T, and the next T is tackle down debt, and that goes back to, like I mentioned, just getting laser focused. There's so many ways you can. Some people start out with the one with the highest interest rate, some start out with the lowest, but I like to say finances is personal, so you have to do what works best for you. I give my advice when I'm working with my clients, but it's like if they're so bent on, no, I want to start here first. Okay, that's where we start.
All
I'm
right.
just a I'm in the passenger seat. You're the driver. So you just tell me and I'm gonna navigate you. And if you don't listen, then we might swerve off the road, but we'll get back on. Uh, type
Yeah.
stuff. So tackle your debt. The L stands for level up your savings and giving.
And I wanted to talk to you about tithing, but I want to let you finish this first.
Okay, we can definitely talk about that. So level up your savings and givings, and that, yeah, we got to talk because that was a struggle for me.
Yeah,
Uh,
let's talk about tithing. Okay, that's
yeah,
not yeah.
yeah. And then the E stands for evaluate and emphasize your wins. Um, and it's just so important to emphasize your win. I just love that part because people, once again, like I said earlier, when you're talking about a budget, they think of deprivation, but it's
Mm.
so important to celebrate as you go along. Like, I don't care if it's just a matter of getting your nails done, your feet done, what buying a new dress, a new shirt. You have to celebrate those milestones because that's what's going to keep you going forward over the
Yeah.
long haul. 3 years is a long time to stay focused, right? So, and if you're
Oh yeah.
looking at a big chunk of debt like I was, over $180,000, you can easily get
Overwhelmed.
discouraged. Yeah. But it was like, okay, let me focus on this $5,000 increment and then the next 5,000. But everything I had, I was throwing at it, that tackling that debt, that type stuff. So that's my version of the baby step. It's called your battle plan, but it's just a step by step, process that'll help you get your financial house in order.
Wow, that is great information. Thank you so much. I know
Yeah.
a lot of people are just uncomfortable asking about it.
Yeah.
So just to even be able to have it available is a great thing. So everybody can learn about it. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's talk about tithing because I think tithing is important, but I also believe that you can tithe too much. So you can. Okay. So there's some people who tithe 30% of their income. I don't understand that. I think tithing technically is 10% of your income going to somebody else other than you. Can you talk to us about that, please?
Yeah. Yeah, without getting too spiritual in it, but it is what it is. Yes, according to the word, it says 10%, right? Um, that's the only thing God asked us to give back to him. We get to keep the 90. We're
Yep.
just required to give back 10%, and like I said, this was tough for me because I had that scarcity mindset. I was a money hoarder. I wanted to keep the 100 because
I
I didn't
want
have
like I
a
don't have enough.
exactly. And I didn't have a good relationship with God. You know what I mean? I wasn't looking at it from the spirit with my spiritual eye. I was looking at it for here in the natural about me and my daughter. But yes, tithing is a very personal thing. It's very personal. Um, when I'm working with clients, I ask them, do you tithe? Yes or no? I don't try to make them change their mind or whatever have you. If some of them say, like you mentioned, yes, and I tithe X amount, 20, 30%, I just show them the big picture of how it impacts their total number, their financial situation. I do not try to change somebody's mind when it comes to how much they want to tithe, because I'm not getting in the way between nobody
No.
and their God and their spiritual beliefs. I just show them, okay, here's what you say you want to do, right? And here's how to get there. And what I also tell them is that keep in mind, with tithing is the concept of stewardship,
Yes.
right? We're called to steward well over what we have or to manage well. So,
Yes.
so are you managing well? I totally get it, but yeah, that's an individual thing. But for me, it's important. For other people, it may not be important. But for those that it is important, we work it into their budget, their spend plan at whatever rate that they so desire. I just show them the overall impact of it.
Well, I think that when I tithe, because I used to tithe to my church, and then I then started to tithe to other places. So a lot of people think that tithing is just restricted to religion, and that's not the case. You can give money to anybody that you think is deserving of it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be restricted to religion. And so how would somebody say, okay, I want to start, being charitable and volunteering? Do your hours count in your volunteering time and your tithing time and the whole thing? So what's your view on that?
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. I was going to say that tithing, yes, the 10% as far as monetary wise is 10%, right? Biblical terms. But tithing is not just about money,
Right.
right? You can tithe your time, your gifts, that type stuff. So it just really depends on where you're coming from with it. And like you said, with tithing, I've always heard starting out, you want to tithe where you're fed, right?
Yeah.
So, yes, I'm going to start with my home church, but there's so many other places where I'm where I'm fed spiritually, that I, it's actually called an offering instead of tithing, that I give to on top of the 10%. So that's really what it is. The 10% is like your basic, your tithe. And then anything other that is like an offering and that type stuff. But girl, I ain't no pastor, so I ain't getting into all that. But
Well, you know what? That is my domain. That's my domain.
okay.
That is my domain. We're not going to get into all that here.
Yeah.
That's like,
There you
yeah,
go.
but
But it
go
goes
ahead.
above money is the
It
main
goes,
point.
yes,
It goes above, it goes, don't just think, and people, think, oh, I don't have the 10% to give, that type stuff, and as you know, that there's, word in the Bible is about your heart posture.
yeah,
You can give the little amount and mean so much more than a person that just gave the greatest amount.
yeah,
So it just really depends. Yeah.
yeah. That is great. So tell me about your financial battle buddies thing. Tell me about that.
Yeah, financial battle buddies, the term battle buddies, for those that are not familiar with the military, is that, that was our person that we can rely on, no matter what. We had to go to go everywhere together. Where you saw one, you saw the
Every
other.
We go everywhere together.
Where you saw one, you saw the other, and they provide you tough love when needed, but also, a shoulder to cry on if needed as well. So that's where the term battle buddy came from, because that's what I wanted when I work with my clients, to be looked at as battle buddies. Like, yeah, she's the counselor or the coach, but she gives me tough love. Now, they do say that, but it's all out of love, and to be the guide when individuals are on this. It's a journey. I do believe that financial freedom is a journey and not a destination, one that you shouldn't go at it alone, because if you could have figured it out by yourself, you may not have been in a position that you're in. You can Google it though, but once again, if you can Google it and figure it out by yourself, then you may not be in the position that you in. So yeah, Financial Freedom Battle Buddies is my business where I help my fellow veterans, specifically women, regain control and conquer the battle over their finances so that they can live life freely. And we do that, like you said, through whether it's a spend plan, they're helping them track their numbers that we talked about earlier, setting goals for themselves. I like to say that I help them get their financial foundation set, like, you know, um, your emergency funds and all that type stuff, so that when they're ready to do more advanced thing like investing in mutual funds, I can recommend them to a financial planner, as you mentioned in the beginning. So that's really what I do with Financial Freedom Battle Buddies, is to walk along with individuals as they start their journey to financial freedom, whatever that means to them. And that's big to me as well. You hear this term, oh, financial freedom, thrown around a lot of times. What I've learned lately is that two things is that it's really freedom that individuals want, that the finances can bring. Right? It's the, oh, I
Right.
want to go on vacation. I want to do whatever I want to do. And that's my definition of financial freedom, is doing whatever I want when I want without ever worrying about money.
Right.
Right? But
Right.
everybody's definition is different. So that's really what financial freedom is all about, working with individuals and also organizations. I provide my consulting services to several organizations here in Nevada, like US Vets, and also the Veterans Treatment Courts, that's part of Henderson and Las Vegas as well. So yeah.
Yeah, nice. I am so proud of you. I remember
Uh,
when you were a PhD candidate and we had dinner that one time.
yeah.
But it's like or a meeting. I'm not sure which one, but it's been a while. But I'm
Yeah, it's
really,
been a while.
yeah, but I'm really proud of your progress, and I'm so grateful that you're helping people, not be prisoner to their finances, because being prisoner to your finances suck. And you know just to be able to find a path of freedom and navigate your way through it is really great. It's really a great thing. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
I
you for having me. I wish you very success with your new ventures. And it has been a long time since we were together. I think it was with Melissa Washington when she came in town with the
yeah,
Women Veterans Alliance. We all had
yeah,
dinner and
yeah.
yeah,
It's been that long,
it's been a
and
minute.
I it's been a minute.
But we see each other. I saw you at anything veteran related is where we see each other.
Well, yeah,
So
yeah, but right now I decided to not decided. I became a certified travel agent, and I think that is I love this job. It's like I'm going back to my roots. I was a flight operations specialist in the Army,
okay.
and now I'm going back to doing something I love to do, which is plan trips for everybody. I love it.
And
So
that's freedom. That's
it,
freedom. Doing what you love to do, right?
it,
And it's not revolving around, oh, I have to take this job to earn this amount of money, that type stuff. If you can do what you love to do, everything else is going to fall into place. So I wish you
you
much
know what?
success.
Let me ask you one more question about
Mhm,
home-based businesses. Can
mhm.
you? Okay, so my travel agency is a home-based business. How can home-based businesses help help women or help single fathers at home and being able to make an income at home, and what type of jobs can you do at home?
Well, I think with this, pandemic, that's shown a lot of us, the type of jobs that we can do, at home. Like it's yours, a travel-based business, mine, financial consulting, any type of service-based business. I know a lot of industries as well had to pivot during,
Oh,
last year.
oh my goodness. You have
Yeah.
it's like we my partner and I, my boyfriend and I, we had to undo our entire plan in order to make it through, because the same thing what we were doing prior to the pandemic, which were convention businesses,
Hmm.
and then there were no more conventions. So
Yep.
we had to totally from top down take things apart. But that takes like that's scary,
It's
because
scary.
that's scary. But go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, no, no. Yeah, you hit it right on the point, on the head, about the pivoting. You have to, whenever you're dealt a certain hand, you have to flexibility. In the Air Force, we say flexibility is the key to air power. You
Oh, yeah.
so, so you just really have to remain flexible. But what I wanted to say is that whatever you do, whether it's a home-based business or a retail brick and mortar business, hopefully it's something that you love to do, not because you have to do it. That, at the end of the day, that's what I think is all about. And I get it. You have to do what you got to do to take care of your family. And if that means driving for, delivery, okay.
And that's what that means.
And exactly. And that's what it means. But, make the most of it. But at the same time, always be working towards or thinking towards what drives you, what's important to you, because that's what's going to carry you through the long haul. So, yeah, man. But I just think that because of the pandemic, yeah, being a home-based business is really, I think it's a good thing, going forward, because before all this happened, I was seeing clients face to face, right?
Hmm.
But because all of this, I had to pivot, and take it online via Zoom or the phone, which wasn't an issue, but it helped me to determine, even in the new normal, I'm not going back to face to face. Okay. Yeah. So all of my stuff is going to be virtual. So I use that time to whatever I was doing with individuals face to face. I recorded course, made it into a course, right? So that they can take it on their own, during their own time, that type stuff. So once again, that goes back to what's important to me. I like the freedom of my schedule, and not having to worry about, going somewhere, whatever have you. And that's really why I wanted to be in business in the first place, was to work from home. So things happen for a reason. It's just how you look at it, what perspective you take on it. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, I really enjoyed this conversation. Thanks so much for spending time with us today.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, and remember when I'm gonna have you back on because you're a wealth of information, and my goal is to just have people learn whatever they need to without having to spend a bunch of money doing it, sharing information, sharing skills.
Yes.
So and that's the best you can do, and share information with those so everybody can be helped,
Yes.
and everybody can rise up. So that's why we do this. So thank you, Dr. and James, for being with us on Monday Lunch with Doc Bunny, episode 6. And you guys take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.